Hello and welcome back to Continental Club, where we discuss the hottest topics in European football. Joining me today is James Wayne and Michael McCubbin, and we have a bumper show lined up for you today because we are talking the Conte revolution. Cool. And that's because Milos Vasiljevic, 7, asked, have Inter won Serie A with their January transfer business? But before we get stuck into that, just a quick reminder to subscribe to Euro Football Daily and hit that notification bell to never miss a Continental Club. But guys, we've got to get into Antonio Conte and Inter Milan because they've had a very busy window. Firstly, some outgoings. Politano's left for Roma on loan and Valentino Lazaro has joined Newcastle on loan. Obviously, we're filming this at about 10 to 11 in the morning, so there might even be more movement before the window slams shut at 11 p.m. tonight. Incomings though, obviously, Christian Eriksen, Victor Moses arrived on loan, Ashley Young as well. And in this episode, we are going to analyse how we think these signings are going to do and whether it makes any difference in the Serie A title race, as they're only separated by 3 points at the moment. But firstly, McCubbin, there seems no better place to start than with Antonio Conte, who's having a pretty good time there out in Milan.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of all expected it to an extent, didn't we? I mean, yeah, he obviously arrived at Inter with a great reputation, and yeah, it was obviously seen as a bit of a coup by Inter to get him in last summer. I think we all kind of thought that Inter would be challenging for the title under his stewardship. Obviously had that great, record at Juventus, got them, that 100-point campaign back in 2014, was it? 3 titles in a row. Obviously took that Italy team to the quarterfinals at Euro 2016. That was when I was, side as well. Yeah, I think that was where I first really kind of cottoned on that, he was quite a special manager actually, and then obviously his great first season at Chelsea followed that soon after. So we already knew what Conte was capable of, and Inter's kind of busyness in the summer transfer market last year only kind of reinforced what they were going to do this season. I think Romelu Lukaku coming in for 80 million euros, he's been a massive hit, hasn't he? Really leading that line alongside Lautaro Martinez, and I think that's the thing as well, is that not only has Lukaku been a hit, he's been able to bring out the best in Martinez as well, who had a bit of a slow start, understandably, because he was brought in at such a young age. He had a lot of expectation on him as well, and obviously those two just look fantastic up front together, and continue to do so in the last few weeks, even when Inter haven't necessarily been firing as much as they have in previous months. And then obviously Barella came in, 12.8 million euros loan fee. I can't see him not staying at the San Siro, to be honest. He's looked fantastic this season. Again, quite a raw player, so maybe not putting in as consistent performances as we expect him to in maybe the next couple of years. But as he showed the other night with his goal against Fiorentina in the Coppa Italia, there is an absolute star there.
What a strike!
Yeah, so good. And Sensi as well, who started the season on fire. Again, not been as loud as as he was right at the start of the season, but again looks top quality. But like you were saying, Politano and Lazaro both gone out on loan this January, and both of them were brought in the summer. Lazaro for 23 million, Politano for 22.5 million, and obviously Politano was there the season before and looked pretty good actually under Spalletti, but for whatever reason it just hasn't worked out for him at Inter, and I guess it's credit to Conte that he's been so decisive in the transfer market. We'll get onto those later, I guess, but with those signings of Moses and Young, in terms of just getting in people fairly kind of short-term basis to kind of fit his system. And in particular, what I've seen from Ashley Young so far suggests that at least going forward, he's going to be a bit of a hit as well at 34 years old. Who would have thought that? But yeah.
I totally agree. I mean, he started really well. That assist, against Cagliari. And I've just been really impressed with Inter whenever I've seen them this year. I think the way he's using Lukaku is how Lukaku should be used. Less of a target man. I actually don't think he's that effective as a target man, and he proved it under Solskjaer at Man United. But when he's given the ball 40, 50 metres out from goal, he's actually a really effective dribbler, and it's how Roberto Martinez has used him for Belgium as well. So well done to Conte, and I think proof is in the pudding. What is it? 16 goals and 4 assists. So completely fair enough. And James, their Champions League campaign, didn't go as well as perhaps many would have expected, albeit in a tough group. But in the league, they've been very consistent.
Yeah, I think I can't remember their last. I think it was around October was their last loss. Of only one loss in the whole league. I mean, they've kept up with Juventus, only at 3 points away at the moment, and I mean, it's hard to say that they will. The question is kind of, are they going to win the league? The question has been since they started. You expect Antonio Conte, who is in my opinion, a better manager than Sarri. My basis on that is only through Chelsea. I know Conte's got this, all these leagues behind him, and Sarri's kind of risen up slowly and become this fantastic manager. And they play very, very different styles of football, so you can't really compare them in terms of how they actually play. But in terms of results, Conte has had the better record, and even at Chelsea, that's why I'm basically the exact comparison is how do they do at Chelsea? Conte did much better, in my opinion. Although Sarri, I do feel left. I think he left too early. I think Chelsea got rid of him too early. If that makes sense. Him moving to Juventus is a good move, but he looked like he was starting to get a system in place at Chelsea, and in Juventus, it's a kind of similar thing now. Their system's kind of kicking into play. They're playing a lot better than they were at the beginning of the season. But yeah, Inter, I mean, they've struggled of late. Was it 3 draws their last 3 games? But they didn't play badly in those games. The one against Cagliari, I thought they were, if they won the game, you wouldn't have batted an eyelid at it. Like, they definitely, if they won the game, they would have deserved to win. It would have been a rightful win. And I think the new signings coming in can only bolster that. We said Ashley Young. Really, I mean, we laugh at it because he's kind of the Premier League rejects. But when you take those signings and you actually analyse it into a Conte system and taking into consideration Serie A and how, yes, it's a cliche that it's a slower league, but I mean it is, and the players that he's brought in actually fits the style of play that So in the league, they're absolutely solid. They've set up a good base to push on. Yes, they've been slightly unfortunate, I would say, but you have to be quite fortunate to beat a team like Juventus in a whole season. Yeah, I wouldn't say they've done anything wrong this season in terms of where they are right now compared to Juventus. They're only 3 points behind. Their only loss came to Juventus back in October. So since then they've been on this incredible unbeaten run. So yeah, the draws are the problem, but I mean, yeah, that's all I say. Too many draws.
Yeah, and obviously talking of unbeaten runs as well, Lazio have obviously are unbeaten since September as well, and I think they've got a game in hand on Inter, which if they won, they would be 2 points behind Juve, I believe, 1 point ahead of Inter, if the calculations work out like that. So yeah, obviously they drew last weekend. That brought to an end an 11-game winning run, which stretched back around that time as well. So yeah, the Serie A title race is
good.
Really, really hot. The best it's been in years, I think, to be honest. I can't remember the last time it was a 3-horse race for sure. But I mean, go back to that Cagliari game as well. That Lautaro Martinez red card, which now keeps him out for the next 2 games, could be a bit of a spanner in the works. I think because Inter have 0 cover up top.
As it stands.
At 11 a.m. on the 31st of January, for sure. Like, something could happen in the next few hours. But yeah, I mean, they literally just have Lukaku basically up top and Esposito, who's like 17 years old. I don't know how much he's played this season, but I mean, yeah. So that could be a bit of a problem.
Does he miss the derby then?
You might well do, actually.
Yeah, because I think Milan are not the following next game, but the following game.
Yeah, so I think they've got Sampdoria and Juventus in the next 4 as well. So it's a really tough run of fixtures. I think they've got Udinese this weekend, which is a must-win. You might have noticed, guys, I've been doing a bit of coughing, so if I have to break into cough at one stage, I'm a bit ill, a bit under the weather. But yeah, they've got some absolutely enormous fixtures coming out. But before I fully pass out, we've got some fan opinions to listen to about Inter Milan's signings so far, Udi and Mason Barney. But more excitingly, no offence to Mason and Udi, we've got Cami Anderson, one of the key men behind the Sempre Inter YouTube channel. And we've also got Zach Lowy, one of the most talented football analysts you'll find on Twitter. And here are their opinions on the season so far and these January signings.
With the most recent arrival of Eriksen from Tottenham, I think that he's going to be a great signing. 20 mil, super big bargain. Of course, when he's rated excess at 80 million on Transfermarkt, I think he's going to be a great signing. But with his arrival, since he's not going to get a lot of playing time, he's going to get benched. He's not going to see as many minutes as he already has been.
The squad is great. We have great centre-backs, world-class centre-backs. We have a great midfield. Eriksen just joined us with Barella and Sensi over there, with a great attackers as well, Lukaku and Lautaro. However, our wing-backs are a problem. Candreva is terrible, Moses is terrible, Young is terrible, and Biraghi is worse than terrible.
There are still certainly some flaws that need to be addressed. I think that a backup center forward should be a priority for them in deadline day. And when you look at it, Romelu Lukaku can't be expected to carry that load. They should bring in a target man such as Olivier Giroud, who can fill that role. As for summer priorities, I would look at a backup for Marcelo Brozovic, who can fill in that role without having such a drop in quality. Another one that I would look at would be a center back. Diego Godin just hasn't really panned out. He's not the player he used to be. Doesn't really have the athletic characteristics to fill in that role in a back three. Alessandro Bastoni, as promising as he is still quite a young player who will make some mistakes. So I do think that a center back who can play on the edge of that back three, as well as a backup for Marcelo Brozovic, should be considered priorities for the summer, not the winter.
The arrivals of both Ashley Young and Victor Moses have been met with mixed emotions both by Inter fans and the Italian media. Neither player were exactly considered the first option for Inter. Inter previously drawn links to the likes of Marcus Alonso, Emerson Palmieri and Leonardo Spinazzola, but I think both players are certainly capable of being assets for the team. Ashley Young has shown in his first 2 appearances what he's capable of, and we just need to wait and see what Victor Moses can bring. As for Eriksen, there's a complete agreement amongst everyone that it is an absolutely massive coup for Inter. The fact that Inter have managed to bring Eriksen in for the money they have is quite simply unbelievable business, and I think it's a real signal of intent about where the club wants to go. As for how the seasons went so far, I mean, I don't think there can be many complaints domestically. The club are sitting second in the table and challenging for the title. There has been a bit of a drop-off in performance in recent weeks, but overall I think there's a lot to be happy about. The club are also in the semi-finals of the Coppa Italia for the first time in a number of years. So yeah, as I say, certainly can't be many complaints, and personally speaking, I am very happy with how the seasons went so far.
Thank you so much for those guys for sending in their opinions. I thought Cami and Zach were particularly interesting. Zach saying that Godin actually hasn't had the best of years, which is something you probably wouldn't have necessarily appreciated unless you'd watched 90 minutes week in, week out. So it's that sort of analysis. Follow Sempre Enter, follow Cami and follow Zach on Twitter. You will not regret it. I'm going to leave most of the talking up to these two, because I'm struggling. I've got my honey and hot water. I feel like a 6-year-old man. I feel like the man I look like. Guys, we need to talk about Victor Moses. Who wants to talk about Victor Moses? Because under Conte beforehand, McCubs, he was really effective.
Yeah, he was obviously in 16-17. You know, had his real kind of breakout year, as it were, at the age of 26. But yeah, was just super effective in that Conte system, wasn't he? At Stamford Bridge, 3.2 tackles and interceptions a game, was firing off nearly 2 shots a game, 1 key pass, completing nearly 2 dribbles. Obviously had 3 goals and 2 assists to his name, which wasn't a massive amount considering how high scoring that Chelsea team were at points in the season. But 0.23 expected goals and assists per 90. You know, is not bad at all in a counter-attacking team. And his success in that position has kind of stuck with him. Obviously, this season he's been playing right mid for Fenerbahce, 2.4 shots a game, 0.5 key passes, 1.8 dribbles. So his production has actually kind of gone down a little bit. But you'd expect that to rise under a manager like Conte, who undoubtedly has managed to get the best out of him in his career. And obviously we've already spoken about Ashley Young as well, but it's probably worth revisiting him a little bit, because obviously he left the Premier League with a bit of a tarnished reputation. I think that's a bit unfair. He was a proper veteran of the Premier League, been playing for the last 15 years, been played in multiple positions for Man United, and I think where most of the stick came from, at least for me, was last term when he was playing predominantly at right back, and I really think he struggled at right back. I don't think he's ever really looked comfortable in that position for me, and that's generally where he was making the most mistakes, where he was leaving the most space in behind. But at left back this season, statistically at least, hasn't looked too bad. 2.3 tackles and interceptions a game, 1.8 key passes, which I think, largely boils down to him being on corners and free kicks, but I think when he did leave, that's still second in the squad to Paul Pogba. 0.7 dribbles, 0.3 shots. So that you can definitely see where his strengths lie, and Conte knows that. Particularly his delivery when given the space is excellent, as we saw against Cagliari. And he's signed for 1.5 million euros. that's not that's not a small amount of money for someone who's very much kind of coming to the end of his career. But he's already played two full 90s. Fitness doesn't seem to be really an issue for him, as Zach was talking about himself. And 18-month deal. I think that's fine, actually. I really think that's fine. I don't imagine, unless he proves to be a real star in this team, I can't imagine that will necessarily get renewed. And I can imagine he's probably happy to see out that contract and kind of see where he goes from there. But obviously, neither of these two are the biggest deal that has happened this January.
No.
Yeah, Jimbo, tuck into it. Christian Eriksen.
Christian Eriksen, what's it? £16.9 million.
What a steal.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Absolute
They only
steal.
signed him for like 12 odd million back in the day from, was it Ajax?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, this move has been coming in terms of Christian Eriksen leaving, and I think Inter picking him up is a great acquisition considering what they're trying to do. It was a bit strange for me how more people didn't go in for Christian Eriksen. In the Premier League, I think since he's joined, he's been first for assists, key passes, shots outside the box, or goals from outside the box, and free kicks. And these are stats that you don't take lightly. Like, he's got all 4 of them being the top since he joined. So to go for 16 million, especially in this day and age where inflated transfer fees are absolutely everywhere, it was an absolute steal. I think he'll do so well at Inter. I know there's been a bit of this meme of his free kick that did the rounds, but I mean that's his free kick. He kind of whips it just over the first man.
Always aims for the near post.
Yeah, they're the most dangerous ones, because if you can get it just over that first man, you're nailed on for some chaos at least. But I think it'll be fantastic there. Especially if he can hit the ground running, especially with Laura Martinez missing the next 2 games, I think they won't really have an issue at all for these next. I know they're going to be so dangerous when he comes back. Like, Laura Martinez is a person that can get a chance, take a chance. We saw it with Icardi last season. Inter have been very good at collecting these players who only need 1 chance in a game to score a goal. And Lukaku, as we were saying, he's a bit different in terms of he likes to do a lot of it himself, and if you give him that freedom, he will take it and he will kind of bully people around and run with the ball and dribble and take on people. But, I mean, you've got a person who can deliver a fantastic ball into the box, and you've got an absolute giant. He's muscle bound as well. He will get on the end of these things.
Yeah. I mean,
so
it's just a top signing. I mean, for 4 years in a row, he contributed over 20 goals.
Yeah,
in the league.
well, just about. I think there was 19
One of them was
19.
19.
Yeah.
But just absolutely remarkable. And what a steal from Conte, and it just gives him more options in that middle of the park. With Sensi having had his injury issues this year, Barella's had his injury issues as well. It just gives them another option around Brozovic, especially if they're going to get rid of Vecino, who looks like he might join Everton. They've obviously got Gagliardini as well. But it's like, I think the Moses and Ashley Young is really about depth at fullback, because Kondrava's actually played pretty well at right wing back. So it'll be interesting to see whether Ashley Young permanently takes his place, or whether Moses permanently takes his place, or whether it be Young or Young playing on the left. We'll see that as the time continues. It looks like Young was playing on the right against Cagliari. So that's more about depth, but I think just Conte deserves massive credit for taking a side that's been nowhere near the title in recent years and putting them this close, this early on. I mean, we've seen it when he went to Chelsea. There's an instant turnaround there. For a 1-year improvement, there's no one really like Conte.
Well, half a year improvement so far.
But the issues tend to be in the 2nd and 3rd years, and he can become quite irritable, become a bit of a tricky character.
But what's interesting here is that he seems to be getting the transfers that he wants at Inter, where that didn't necessarily happen at Chelsea. Almost from the word go, he semes to be able to just kind of pick and choose exactly who he wants here. I mean, maybe Christian Eriksen isn't necessarily the exact player he would go for, but he's if he's available, you're gonna take him at that price. He's already that forward line is already so unrecognisable now from what it was last season, which is pretty mad. And I forgot to mention earlier, obviously Alexis Sanchez is another option up top, so they're not completely bereft of options up top. You could see Alexis Sanchez maybe playing off Lukaku, and if you do have Alexis Sanchez on some kind of form, obviously he's had his injury problems this season, but Eriksen, Sanchez and Lukaku, that kind of link up could be really, really good.
Quick prediction, guys, before we wrap up. Can Inter do it in the league?
Yeah, they can.
Yeah.
Do you think they will?
I don't know if I back them at this, but I just don't know if I back them, just because Juventus look so much better than they did,
They've
and
really
Lazio are still
their own
in
last
the
month
that's
or
the
so.
thing.
Yeah. I was backing them up until now, but I don't know if I can 100% back them.
I think,
well, anyway.
My head says no, but my heart says yes.
I mean, clearly. Yeah. I do have a Juventus shirt. I'll pick up any European nation. Any European club, rather. But yeah, guys, thank you very much for listening to our Inter Milan and Conte section, and for these two for holding it all together. Although my throat does feel a lot better.
You
did well. Hot water and
it's a good 3 sentences.
Hot water and honey. But yeah, let's move on to our big match preview. Our big match preview this weekend could have been one of a number of games because Leipzig host Gladbach on Saturday at 5:30. Absolutely must-win game for Leipzig after losing their first game since late October last weekend against Eintracht Frankfurt. Go and check out the highlights of that game if you haven't. There was an absolute humdinger in it. Juventus are playing Fiorentina as well, but we had to talk about the Madrid derby. Real versus Atleti this Saturday at 3 p.m. It sees first play 5th now at Atleti. Huge game for both sides. And McCubs, Real Madrid go into it with a lot of confidence.
Yeah, quite rightly. Obviously, it's been a fantastic few months for Real Madrid, hasn't it? Probably their best run of form in quite some time, probably since Zidane's first spell at the club. Are unbeaten since the 9th of October. They've only conceded 9 goals in that time. They've scored 45 in all comps in that time. And along with that, obviously, that includes the Spanish Super Cup, which they won against Atleti, qualified for the Champions League knockouts, gone 3 points clear at the top of La Liga. So a lot of people's worst fears at the start of the season have been squashed essentially by what looks to be like a really kind of exciting development in this squad. Zidane really seems to be getting the best out of a lot of the players. Whether they're kind of the old heads who were kind of the figureheads of that first era that he oversaw, or younger players like Fede Valverde, Vinicius Junior, who are kind of going from strength to strength at the moment. Only Barcelona have scored more than their 39 goals in the league, and we know that Barcelona have kind of outperformed their expected goals quite a lot, especially at least under Valverde, and obviously, Messi just kind of completely dominating things there. But I think what is the most striking thing is that they have the best defence in Europe again. Yeah. They've only conceded 13 in the league, and again, I think we probably need to give a bit of a shout out to Thibaut Courtois, because I think he was lambasted by Real Madrid fans at the start of the season, and to be fair, I think FD in general we've never been the biggest fans of Courtois, even when he was at Chelsea. But even towards the start of the season, when Real were maybe definitely weren't looking as good as they are now, they were still outperforming their expected goals against, and you have to kind of give Courtois a bit of credit for that, because that defence, as good as it has been, does still give up good opportunities every now and then, and Courtois has been able to deal with that. I think I do feel like in the last couple of months, Real Madrid fans have been a bit easier on him, which is good to see, because I think it was beginning to, a bit nasty. It was beginning to turn into a little bit of, he just couldn't do anything right, even if he was playing, kind of very much kind of pantomime villain, which does play into the culture at Real Madrid quite well. There always tends to be a kind of a boo boy, as it were. But nevertheless, I think that improved defensive form has paid dividends. Last 12 games, they've won 8, drawn 4, scored 23, conceded just 5. That led to a 4-point swing in La Liga. And they very much are favourites to win La Liga now, especially with what we've seen at Barcelona, with them swapping in Setien for Valverde. There is going to be a period of adaptation there, and already we've seen Setien revert back to a 4-3-3 for their midweek win against Leganes, which was very impressive, to be fair. But already we're kind of seeing that maybe making such a drastic switch halfway through the season wasn't necessarily the most wise idea in the context of the title race. And Real can be confident when they look at the fixtures they've got coming up as well. They've got Osasuna, who obviously don't have Chimi Avila now. He's out for the rest of the season. Celta Vigo, who are 18th, and Levante, who are 13th. And then after that, they have El Clasico. So there is the opportunity in the next few weeks for Real Madrid to really open up that gap, should Barcelona falter at any point. Barcelona themselves playing Levante this weekend, so you'd expect them to win that. They tend to hand out drubbings to the Valencia side. But nevertheless, I expect Los Blancos to be top of the league come El Clasico in a few weeks' time. Their form has suggested that they're not you know, I just can't see them dropping points really right now. And I think, you know, there's a number of players who can, you know, who they have to thank for this great form. None more so, I think, than Casemiro, who, you know, always has been, you know, a very solid performer for them, obviously, over the last few seasons. Kind of one of the first real success stories, really, of Zidane's tenure at the club originally. Obviously, he got those 2 really important goals against Sevilla a few weeks ago that won that game.
One of them, lovely.
Yeah, fantastic. And
didn't know he had it in him.
Yeah, no, he's just, you know, he's jack of all trades, isn't he?
Yeah.
But obviously on the defensive end, he's just, you know, been fantastic. 5.9 tackles and interceptions this term, and yeah, 1.6 shots. He's marrying that with 58 passes a game, 84% pass accuracy, which isn't amazing, but I think when you've got, you know, a midfield which looks a lot more functional now with Fede Valverde in there, I just think it makes his job a lot easier, and I think that's, you know, maybe why we've been able to see him kind of pop up in those more attacking positions of late. Vinicius Junior as well still looks quite raw, but his underlying numbers suggest that he's going to explode at any moment. 3.2 shots a game, 1.6 key passes a game, 3.7 dribbles per 90, so 0.58 expected goals and assists per 90, which is up from last season. So yeah, despite him only having 3 goals and an assist in 19 appearances this term, obviously he scored against Zaragoza in the cup, and yeah, I feel like maybe not in the back end of the season, but I feel like 2021 is going to be his campaign to really shine. And they also have Hazard potentially back for this tie. I can't imagine he'll definitely start because they've done so well in his absence that you wouldn't expect Zidane to really rock the boat for a tie of this magnitude. Bale apparently could also return as well. So yeah, they go into this game really confident and with an attack which seems less reliant solely on Benzema at this moment. So.
Yeah. I mean, they've got a lot of options as well. I mean, it's really nice to see that Mendy sort of established himself as the long-term left back now. Marcelo being slowly phased out of the side, although not too dramatically, as you don't want to see that to, you know, a living left back legend even. Fede Valverde coming into midfield has really sort of, you know, helps the sort of dynamics there with Kroos and Modric, not quite the same athletes that they used to be, but still obviously fantastic players. The main concern for Zidane going forward is to try and get more out of Jovic, in my opinion. That would be top of his in tray going forward. But James, let's talk Atleti, because while things are all rosy for Los Blancos, not so much for Los Rocky Blancos.
At all. They've been a pretty big disappointment this season. I mean, they're, as you said before, they're 5th. They're 10 points off Real Madrid as it stands. I mean, they're only 5 points off 9th, I believe, so it's really not going well. Their defence has been what it usually is. I mean, they've got the 2nd best defence in Europe. But the problem in terms of this game is the person who has the best defence in Europe is Real Madrid. So what they've kind of built themselves over this season, what they've always been good at, Real Madrid are doing better. So for this game, it's scary for them. I mean, their last kind of 8 games, like 1-3, drawn 3, it's not great. It's really not great. Yeah, they've really not in this kind of forward attacking line. You would have expected, with the signing of €126 million player, they would have had some form of input. Like, not even just kind of a burst of goals or, you know, creativity. It's the kind of expect. Even if you moved for, like, say 60 million, the expectance of this young Portuguese player, João Felix, obviously I'm talking about here. You would have expected the numbers of goals to go up, or at least kind of the creativity to go up in the side, and it's really not happened. Like, if we was talking a 60 mil player, you would still expect it to go up. And he's 126 million euros, and he's been a real disappointment. Yeah, they've only scored 22 goals in the league, which is joint, I believe, with Mallorca. It's really not good. And as bad as it is going forward, you know, their attack is, I don't want to say non-existent, but there's so much surgery to be done. They've got so many injured players as well. It's just, everything's going wrong. You know, if you look at the list, this season has been like Lamar, Costa, Koke, Trippier, Jimenez and Hermoso have been injured. The majority of those players are still out for this game. It's really tragic. And as we were saying before, João Felix, he hasn't hit the ground running. He's got the same expected goals as Villa's El Ghazi at 0.49 a game.
Goals and assists,
sorry, which, I mean, El Ghazi didn't cost that much. and it's just tragic, and it's really I really like Atletico Madrid. I've always liked the way they've kind of chugged along, always trying to be there, comparing themselves to Barcelona and Real Madrid. And when it comes to this game, in the past maybe 10 odd, I know they played each other recently, but in the past kind of 10 years, haven't seen a situation where maybe not 10 years, maybe 5 years to just cover myself. I've never seen a situation where Real Madrid are so much better than Atletico Madrid, and I'm really worried for them in this game. As we were saying, the defence of Real Madrid is so good at the moment, you wouldn't expect them to score anyway, let alone Morata being their top scorer with like 7, and the next best has got 3. It's just tragic, and I'm not looking forward to this from Atletico Madrid's point of view.
No, and it's hard to be too harsh on João Felix. He's obviously very young, but I agree with you. We said in the summer that he was very overpriced. I mean, he only played 40 games or so for Benfica, and to expect him to go in and replace Griezmann, who's been their top scorer for the last 4 years or so, consistently getting around the 20-goal mark. Well, it's kind of ridiculous to assume.
I think it was a bit unfair.
And a lot of injuries haven't helped them in the attacking areas as well.
Yeah, I think it's a bit unfair to put that price tag on him, because you look at the kind of €100 million players, and apart from Coutinho, I'd say is a bit of a flop. Oh God, that's
part of our set falling down over there.
If you look at the kind of €100 million players who've moved recently, I would say Coutinho's been the kind of biggest flop of them all. So I'm taking João Felix out of this because he is so young. It's so harsh to put him. That's what I'm saying. These players have been fantastic players, and for him to come into that category of the €100 million player, it's so much pressure. And especially for Atletico Madrid, who you would never expect to put that money on. Obviously, it was a Griezmann money, but yeah, for a club like that to spend that much money on such a young player and it to go so wrong so quickly, I fear that it will get worse, because
it'd be difficult to get a sell-on value as well.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where like if the fans hopefully will stay off his back for a bit and understand the situation, that he's a very young player, he's still developing. Like he as you said, 40 games. It's not that many games, and if he doesn't improve, I can see it turning sour, and I really don't want that, because he seemed an exciting player.
I think it's just recruitment, isn't it? They need they need someone who can create from midfield, because they just you can't expect João Felix to do everything, which kind of what Griezmann was doing, and even he was struggling to do that last season. So it's not great for Atleti, and I think I agree with you, James. I think this is the first time I can remember in a long time where the gulf between the two Madrid sides is this big. I can't see anything than a very comfortable Real Madrid victory.
What are we going prediction-wise?
I'll probably have to put it out there first. I've been extremely impressed with Zidane, and I have to kind of backtrack, because I was chatting a lot of rubbish, saying that he would be nowhere near as good as he was last time, and he's proved me completely wrong. He's put me in a stronger position.
He's put you back in your box.
Well, he's put me well in my box. I don't know. I know there'll be no goals from Atletico Madrid. If they score a goal, I'll be extremely impressed. I'm going to say maybe it's going to be a tough one, so maybe 2-0, but completely dominant Real Madrid.
Fair.
I'm going to say 3-1. I just think because it's a derby that Real Madrid will concede against all odds. But I'm going to say 3-1.
I think it'll be tighter than these guys think. I think it'll be 1-0 to Real Madrid. They are always tighter than we think. Guys, get your predictions for the game in the comment section below. And let's move on to Quickfire Questions. Our Quickfire question comes from absolute Continental club legend, Tamesh Bahal, who has asked, who should Barcelona sign after Suarez's injury? Obviously, there's been lots of reports, banded around this week. Bakambu, no. Richarlison, 85 million. Willian, they're trying to get for 20. What is going on, McCurbs, and who should they get?
Oh, yeah, it's a bit
Rodrigo
ridiculous, isn't it? Yeah, Rodrigo they were trying to get. I mean, none of these players really scream to me Suarez replacement, obviously. I feel like they're very much short-term replacements because of his injury. And it just seems all very short-sighted. I think 85 million for Richarlison, clearly that is overpriced. But then, considering the kind of prices that they have put on player, or the kind of fees that they have paid for players, isn't actually that wholly surprising. He did cost Everton 50 mil. I think it was 40 mil. Cost Everton 50 mil. Okay, he hasn't been as consistent a scorer or a contributor as maybe many would have expected, but Everton in general have been a bit of a mess, haven't they, over the last couple of years, at least in terms of kind of a consistent style of play, in terms of kind of consistent results.
Recruitment.
And their recruitment, of course. Still still overpriced. 85 mil. Like there's no two ways about it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just don't think they should bother really with going for a centre forward at this point. I think obviously in the summer they have to go in. Personally, I think for Lautaro Martinez. I think if they were going to go for 100 million euros in Richarlison, then 120 million euros in Lautaro Martinez, who like has a far more proven record over the last 2 years, at least over the last 12 months. I just think he looks tailor-made for a Barcelona side. Okay, he's not, as spectacular a player as Suarez, but at 22, like he's a superstar in the making, isn't he? And can offer, I don't know, I think it can offer something that a 28-year-old Griezmann can't, and something that even a 32-year-old Messi can't really. You can't expect Messi to cover as much ground as he has done in the past, and he's shown that. And I think at least in a Setien system, I feel like Messi is going to be far better used in a deeper role. There's been talk of him maybe being pushed into more of a centre forward role. Personally, I would be far more comfortable seeing Messi drop a bit deeper and letting someone like Martinez go a bit forward, or having Martinez maybe play alongside him, or bring Coutinho back and play alongside him and have Griezmann give Griezmann a little bit more creative support. So yeah, I think Barcelona really first of all need to work out how they're going to play under Setien in terms of like who's going to be playing where, because it has been a bit of a it's been a bit of a, I wouldn't say a mess, but it's they're still very much in transition, so it's hard to know exactly who they need up top, or whether they definitely need a centre forward, or whether they need a bit more creative support. But yeah, if I was going to go for a centre forward, Lautaro Martinez.
So I think Lautaro Martinez is a very good shout. I also put Timo Werner in the hat as well.
Yeah.
I think he's been like the second best striker in Europe this year, behind Lewandowski. He can play on the left, he can play centrally as well. He'd be awesome, and with a pretty cheap release clause if build reports are correct.
I mean, this is in terms of replacing Suarez as a whole, not just for this injury. Yeah, for this injury, I don't think they should sign anyone, because it would just be a snap signing, probably pay over the odds. Richarlison, 80.
What I wanted to ask you, James, if you were Marcel Brands, Everton's director of football, and someone offered you 85 million for Richarlison mid-season, you might not be able to get in a replacement. Would you take it? I would definitely. I
had a bit of a, I don't know if it's a controversial opinion, but definitely a different one to. I mean, I had a lot of people kind of question why I thought this, but I thought if, say, because obviously this was rumoured, or was it actually a full bid? I'm not too sure, but either way, if I was Richarlison or Everton, I think this kind of rejecting a bid for 100 million for Richarlison actually makes sense to me, because he hasn't been the player that we fully expect. The player that we can see, he hasn't fully been yet. And he's nowhere near the age of top form. He can have a good year and a half of actually performing at the level we believe he can do. If he can hit that, I think you can get more than 100 million for him. I think right now, playing under Carlo Ancelotti, this is where it comes in. I think Carlo Ancelotti right now would be a better experience for him to play under than Setien, just for the fact there is that much more experience at the higher levels of football for him to learn from. I would say give it a year and a half, and he hasn't been playing that well. As we keep saying, we big him up quite a lot here, and I do think there's more in Richarlison to come. And the fact that he's been mediocre from my expectation means that they could get more money, and he'll be able to kind of come in with a bit more of a superstar status later on. I don't think this is his one and only chance to move to Barcelona. So that was I thought that Everton rejecting the bid made sense to me.
You're playing the long game. Okay, fair enough. I just thought as he'd be the fourth highest Premier League export of all time at 85.
I still think they could get more. That would be my thing. But
I feel like that is like at least a year or two down the line, right? Because we don't even know yet whether he's going to be like a main contributor under Ancelotti, I feel. But I don't know, maybe that's just
it would be a win for Everton if he did move, because there's just 30 million for a player who's been all right, and they could replace his output quite easily. But if I was Richarlison and Everton, I wouldn't mind that, leaving him for a bit.
Fair. I like having a different perspective. Guys, that's all we've got time for on Continental Club for this week. Sorry, it was a bit of a mess with my coughing. We probably had to interchange quite a lot. These two very much held it all together as usual. Throat actually feels a lot better. Loving this water.
Honey, mate. Honey.
I'm just going to go drown myself in honey after this.
That's a horrific vision.
That is a lot, yeah. just me
No, stop.
covered in it. Anyway, guys, what should they go do now?
Check out Stat Wars, the leagues. Obviously, that's started again. There's a playoff tomorrow because Kieran, if you didn't already know, is leaving. I think pretty much everyone knows that. So he's now not in the league. So yeah, Sam versus Zach tomorrow for a chance to be in the league. What else is there? Obviously, if you haven't already, we obviously do Journeymen over on Football Daily. Our new episode is coming out very soon, but if you haven't already checked them out, Forest Green Rovers we did one on Notts County as well, so go and check those out. Go and check out the podcast. I don't know what else there is.
Also, really comprehensive. I love it.
If you enjoyed the little viewer section where you send in your opinions, send them in. Dougie sends out a tweet usually Wednesday, so if you want to be in the show, make sure you send your videos in, because see yourself on the big screen.
For sure. I mean, yeah, good note to finish on. Thank you very much to Udi, Mason, Cammy and Zach. You're all excellent. And I'll be in touch next week for our topic and our, give you the opportunity to get your opinion in. Thanks for watching, guys. See you later.